You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hello, this is Force 13 Live, and we are here talking about a lot of things right now. Hurricane Florence is what's getting a lot of people's attention tonight. Of course, it is the long-range threat. It's not the only one, however. Invest 92L is also out in the eastern Atlantic, in the lower area, low latitudes, and could go on to affect the Caribbean next week. Invest 93L is behind that, also has a high chance of development, and also we've got action in the Pacific, with Hurricane Norman passing close to the Hawaiian Islands but not quite affecting them, and Olivia, which could end up going there next week as well. Additionally, in the Western Pacific, we're also monitoring 99W very closely for potential development, because a lot of models are taking that one to some of the islands over there on the Asian continent. We don't know which ones just yet, but at quite a lot of intensity. It's something we'll be watching very closely for a while, and possibly one or two other invests over there could form too. So, we're here tonight live to talk about absolutely everything. My name's Nathan Foy, I'm joined by our team in this hour. I don't know how long we're staying tonight, but we're doing at least an hour, so stick by us here. I'm joined by Strat, David, and Hank.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
We're looking at all of the views around there, and on the bottom right hand panel there you can see that's not Florence, even though Florence looked quite like that yesterday, a bit smaller than that. That's Olivia that we're looking at over there, which is borderline category 3-4. They're saying 125 miles an hour at the last update, so we're watching that one very closely. It's looking very impressive indeed. Before I talk to the team, I just want to make everyone aware of everything else as well. If you've got any comments or questions for us whilst we're on the air, do send a message. Start your message with Force 13, all in text. It will light up big and bright for us. And you can also take part in the poll tonight. And the poll is, will Invest 92, the one that is just behind Florence, will that become a named storm on Friday? Now, depends how you want to phrase Friday, but I would personally use the UTC clock, and that's why it already says Friday at the bottom of your screen there, because it's just ticked midnight. At the minute, this is on the community tab of our channel page, and at the minute 100% are saying yes. Well, yeah, the way things are going, that might be right. Who'd like to begin for us tonight in the room?
On the awkward silence. I guess we'll start with Florence, because that's the one that most people are talking about right now, and I guess rightfully so. First and foremost, I just kind of want to put this out there. Everything we say regarding impacts to, potential impacts at least, to the US, Bermuda, anywhere in the Atlantic, it's all very, very
speculative at best.
Very uncertain at this point. The cone.
Yeah, and we're showing the forecast cone on the screen now, and you can see at the minute NHC saying a major hurricane. Hank, I want to get your thoughts on this before you proceed. You know how the National Hurricane Center have a very strict policy on their cones. Do you think they should, consider making it a larger cone than usual on this?
Well, I mean, for a storm like this, that would be ideal, because the uncertainty with Florence is a lot higher than normal. Even at 3 days, we have no clue where it could be.
The model spread is gigantic at this point, and it's really huge. Even though it's shifted significantly further west, it's still really large.
Cone is something that, it's, like you said, it's set with pretty strict standards, basically based on track errors and kind of extrapolating it into an average to make the cone. The cone really doesn't express true certainty, though. Yes, it should be wider, but for a storm with a lot more confidence at 5 days, then it could arguably be smaller. At this point, it's not really something that the U.S. needs to worry about because the threat to the U.S. would be past 5 days. But for somewhere like, say, Bermuda, which is barely in the cone right now, they really needs to be paying very close attention to this. So you could argue, in some sense, that it might need to be further in. But that's just my sense on it.
Yes, we will talk about all sorts of things to do with models later on. At the moment, we're putting Bermuda at a 43% chance of receiving tropical storm conditions. Now, that is at 5 days out, already quite a high percentage, and that is only going to increase if the storm is indeed going to Bermuda. But we're talking about the timing of this. That is just as difficult as predicting the track, isn't it?
Pretty much. I mean, the timing of all these different years going into Florence's track, it's crucial in determining in the future. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I've been tracking storms for intensively for a good 5 years, and I haven't seen anything quite like this level of uncertainty at such an early age. You can say storms maybe like Joaquin rivaled that, but
yeah,
honestly, it's very, very uncertain. Even a day out, it might be a lot. It might be further north of that cone in a day. Going back, I was looking at the European ensembles from, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and the storm's actual position was way north of what the European ensembles were predicting, and they're showing it going straight west now. So,
well, that's what the NHC has for the next 2 days, but one or two models even proposing that maybe in this time right now it's going to do a bit of a corkscrew south and then northwest.
Possibility, because really, if there's a little bit of a ridge building in between Florence and the trough that will eventually be dipping down and more than likely missing the storm, if that's a bit stronger, then it could easily push it a bit towards the southwest. And basically, anytime a storm moves southwest in the Atlantic, it means bad news. General trend to go by, basically. Southwest is not good, and that happens, and that only increases the potential for impacts in the United States. Like the UK Met does that, the European does it to an extent. Both those models bring the storm right into the United States. Again, at a week out, but still they bring it in.
Yep, I've got quite a lot.
This one's going to be this one's going to be tough.
Yes, it certainly is. I've got quite a lot of questions about whether certain locations are going to get a landfall or not on the East Coast. It's way too early to say that. I can give you and I will give you some graphics shortly regarding that, so just stay tuned on that one. There's one or two questions about 92L as well, whether it could become a hurricane before reaching the Lesser Antilles. I think it definitely could, don't you?
Models say that as well. HWR says a Cat 3 before it reaches there, and that's definitely going to be on the high end. But
alright, I just want to cycle through all of these graphics that I'm showing for a little while, and then we can discuss some more. So there's Florence. They're already up to advisory number 30, by the way.
It's been around for a week then since it became a PTC.
Here's Norman. That looks like an old graphic. Yes, it's a very old graphic. That's from 4 days ago. I don't know why it's not showing the later graphic on that one. It must be a different link. These are the model runs. A lot of the selected model members there, the ensembles. The CMC takes it into North Carolina. Why? The GFS takes it very close to Long Island, with leaving us all speculating after that. But quite a few of the other models there, and what I would say the consensus is that the storm still stays away from land. Just.
I can only hope at this point.
However, Bermuda is right in the middle of all those. You might just be able to make out the outline of Bermuda just underneath the green navgem line. Very close to there. So that's a look at Florence. This is 92L. Now this is interesting, showing you what a lot of the models are saying there. GFS takes it into the Eastern Caribbean now. And I don't know what the CMC is doing. Ignore that one. The navgem is quite curious as well, having the storm going north. Don't know what I don't get that, but you never know. But a lot of those models there, you would say the consensus is towards the Lesser Antilles, but we don't know whether it's going to be through into the Caribbean or whether it's going to go above the islands or whether it will track over the Greater Antilles, Puerto Rico and the like, and that would not be good news. Same areas that were affected last year. This is Olivia, a little bit stretched on that graphic. That is maybe ever so slightly out of date, but not too much. You can see there quite a mess with the models, quite a spread, especially when you get to Hawaii's longitude. So that's why Hawaii needs to continue to watch Olivia very closely on these graphics. And these are just the National Hurricane Center graphics, the tropical weather outlooks. You can see the remnants of Gordon still alive, apparently. Florence is out there, and its influence isn't particularly large. And then you've got the two low latitude invests, 80% on number 1, which is already out at sea, and 70% on number 2, that's just emerging off the coast. That's in the next 2 days alone. Odds are that both of those are going to become named storms. The East Pacific looks like this. There's Olivia and a 50% chance area to its east. I think that's 92E, is that right?
Yeah.
92.
That is.
And there's the Central Pacific, where you can see Norman. And Norman in the last few hours starting to look quite dishevelled, really taking a battering from wind shear by the looks of things. We might explore that later. And this is the West Pacific, giving a high chance for 98W, the JTWC that is, right next to the Ryukyu Islands, so who knows whether that will form. 99W is the one over there on the right hand side. That's the one we're going to be watching for well over a week, I can tell you that. And 90W just off the coast of Luzon, the western coast in the South China Sea. But these are what I wanted to show you, some products that I produced in the last hour or two before the show started. A few percentage chances. Tropical storm conditions in the next 5 days. Hurricane Norman, 4 or 5% in Hawaii. Shouldn't need to worry. This is Olivia. Very similar percentages in the next 5 days, I hasten to add. It's going to be higher percentages beyond that, but in the next 5 days, 4% in Hilo, 3% in Maui. And this is Florence. This is in the next 10 days. I want to make you aware of that. The next 10 days, in the next 5 days, all these percentage chances are nil. But this is the next 10 days, and the highest percent chance there is Nantucket at 25%. So you might want to screenshot that graphic and take a good long look at. Well, Bermuda's 43% in the next 5 days. But these are all the percentage chances along the US East Coast. Strat, your area, about, you're obviously a little bit...
I'm in 10% right now.
10%. Long Island itself, 20% in those exposed areas. Those percentage chances are going to change. 1 in 5 chance for a lot of those places. It's still not a very high chance yet, but we'll keep watching as those percentages may go on and rise, or they may fall.
I'd say at least for Bermuda, that's obviously the closest landmass. Earlier today, it looked much more of a threat. You know, the track had it straight in the center. It has shifted significantly south since about 2 or 3 advisories ago. Models have done the same, so it looks like it's going to still make close approach. As the storm expands in size, it could be a larger threat, but it looks like Bermuda might get lucky with this one.
Well, I don't know. What I don't know about that. From what I saw in those model ensembles, it's right in the middle. I mean, it could go one way or the other.
At least the major models, the National Hurricane Center, Euro, GFS, have all shifted south since this morning, a little bit in terms of its approach to Bermuda.
Well, if you are Bermuda, you can take stock in the fact that, you know, if it was a major hurricane, actually receiving those hurricane conditions are very low. It's like a needle in a haystack when it comes to Bermuda because it's so small.
Yeah.
But it can happen. Hurricane Emily, 1987.
Just a quick question. Someone's asking if Olivia's been a Cat 4 yet. The answer to that is yes, a day and a half ago, I think.
And just this for the 92L as well, the Lesser Antilles. 25% for a lot of those lesser, for the Leeward Islands. Those are the highest percentage chances so far, and those may rise depending on what the storm's going to do. Again, that's very long range, 10 days out. It could change a lot in that amount of time. This is I'd like to think it's a little bit better than speculation, but it is still very uncertain when you're talking about those lengths of time. And time for impacts for 92L with regards to the Lesser Antilles would be at least 6 days, wouldn't it? Possibly more.
I would actually really like to butt in really quick. Strat, Olivia did not hit Category 4 intensity. It did by...
Did it not?
It looked like one.
My bad.
Wasn't, so...
So yeah, I just wanted to show all of those graphics there, and hopefully they're of interest.
Yeah, I know for the 92L is a pretty slow-moving system for the main development region in particular. Florence got to move on much quicker. Usually storms at this latitude move at a significantly higher speed, like closer to Florence or barrel speed from earlier this year. This one should take almost a week until it approaches the Lesser Antilles, even though it's already past Cabo Verde at this point.
It's also a very large and very it's a lumbering system, so usually those don't move nearly as fast. The circulation is still pretty elongated. That there's an ASCAT pass from this morning that showed it did have a closed but still kind of broad circulation, and the convection really isn't that well defined, so I can see why it hasn't been yet. Now, could happen tomorrow, could happen Saturday. It's very likely going to happen, but for now, it just looks like a very well-defined African easterly wave with fine depression, but not quite yet.
I mean, it doesn't quite look so good on the infrared right now. This is what 92L looks like. This is the one located in the Eastern Atlantic. If we pan up a little bit to the top left, you can see Florence.
I'm assuming the closed circulation's in the northeast part of that convection, Hank?
Actually, it's not. It's actually in the southwest.
Oh. Did not expect that one with it.
Well, I mean, then again, the circulation is elongated, and really it's kind of two separate lobes, sort of, but really it's kind of concentrated on, you know, I would say about 12 north, which is on the bottom portion of the actual wave.
Now, what do you think of Florence's appearance at the moment?
Not good.
It's sheer beauty.
Sheer beauty.
Yeah, it's really degraded since yesterday. It was a very healthy and very, for lack of a better word, Cat 4.
Yeah,
now
we posted satellite imagery of that storm on the channel as well yesterday. Really looked very good.
Now it's
holding on.
Yeah, now it's at one status, but I will say that this storm is surprisingly robust. I've been looking at some imagery recently that has been showing that there is a lot of lightning going on in the core. Usually you don't see in the cores of tropical cyclones, but when you do, that means that it's really trying to intensify, and it's trying right now. That is something.
Well, you even saw yesterday when it was Category 4, people were even speculating, could it get to Category 5 out here? Well, it certainly didn't then, and we certainly hope it doesn't happen. It would be in a very small minority of storms if it did manage to do that, but you look at it now and you wonder, how can it intensify? But it's got a hell of a lot of time, and I guess that's how.
It's
currently
under like 30 knots of shear, and that's going to decrease by tomorrow. That should decrease, and it should start re-intensifying by then. It could potentially weaken down to a tropical storm, though I kind of doubt it. And even if it were, it would likely re-strengthen back to hurricane status by tomorrow, because right now in the eastern layer of the Tutlow, and once it gets into the center, like the actual trough axis, then it's going to be a lot less shear in that area, and it's going to be more unstable, and it's going to be generally a better environment for the storm to really get its act together. As you can see on National Hurricane Center forecast, it shows it going back up to major status. A little bit too late in the forecast. That could happen before Bermuda. Bermuda, perhaps. And And another thing I will say is that because it's weakened a bit more than forecast, it's going to be moving a bit farther south than the forecast. You can see here, I'm seeing
we can't see actually, Hank. We aren't able to see the screen. I did wonder whether you were showing it or not.
But I will pull up it. I'll pull some up now, I guess. Let me just get the correct, and I'll pull it up for you. On view. Man, I can't get the correct view, so.
All right, we'll wait on that for a few minutes. Are we able to talk to Orlando? He's here as well. At least I believe he is here somewhere.
He's in the call. I don't know if he's.
All right. Well,
present right now.
we'll get to chat to him later, hopefully. Strat?
I was gonna, just personally at least, in terms of models, I'm very interested in looking in particular at the HWRF runs, because for the most part, at least it was one of the first models to pick up on the rapid intensification, and then yesterday it showed rapid weakening to tropical storm status around now, and we're pretty close to that. So,
well, I think those are just one-offs. I mean,
that's true.
HWRF now predicts it to be a big Category 4 as it goes towards Bermuda, and that could happen. It also predicts that 92L will be a Category 3 or 4, borderline Cat 3, 4 in 5 days' time. And you can see them on the left-hand side of your screen, the HWRF solutions, and you can see the top left one there, having Florence just on the edge of Bermuda by day 5, by Tuesday night.
All right, so I actually got the right view up, so I don't know why that took so long. It's kind of a weird.
And now I've got to press the right buttons. Oh, it loaded. Thank goodness for that. Go ahead.
All right, so yeah, you can kind of see it's moving in a general westward motion right now. It was moving pretty straight northwest. Now it's taken a much more westward path earlier than predicted. It was earlier as predicted to kind of do that further up in this general area. Now it's kind of doing it a bit earlier because it's weaker than forecast, and it's really robust in that the fact that even though it's being sheared from the southwest, even though it's being sheared from the southwest, the mid-level vortex is still aligned with it, and that's very impressive considering that 30 knots of shear usually rips that mid-level vortex off like, Velcro, and it happens very quickly in some cases. And this storm, it's just not happening. It's just not budging. And what this tells me is that this straight westward movement could easily be a sign that this is something that's going to be lasting for a very long time, and potentially it could be too late before it might take a bit of a northward turn, and that would be obviously worse news. But again, you can see how far it is away from land. I mean, literally it's halfway between the Leeward Islands and the Azores. I mean, it's in the middle of freaking nowhere right now, to say the least. And as this continues to move off towards the west, I mean, the only area that's going to be impacted in the next 5 days is Bermuda. And even that, it might be a bit farther south than there. So if this westward movement continues, the worries for the United States, I guess, would increase. But you're going to hear this a lot tonight. It's really far out into the future, so that's some good news. So you do have time to prepare. If you are in the United States and you are worried about the storm, you have time to get your hurricane preparedness plan ready, just in case.
Folks. It's time.
Sorry?
It's time to get that preparedness plan ready.
Yeah, it's time.
If you're going to do that plan, do it all over the East Coast, because the models could show anywhere from Florida to Newfoundland.
And one or two people already talking about 92L in Florida. My God. I don't know. It's way too early to say that, but yeah, why not at least get your preparedness plan ready if you haven't done so? I mean, you must have done so if you're in Florida, because we've already had one or two.
I just feel like the MDR is firing on all cylinders, and at least in our forecast and the National Hurricane Center forecast, we really didn't think we'd see this much activity from there this year.
It's like 1996 at the moment.
I guess the best analog to this year right now, in my kind of sort of biased opinion, I guess, would be 2002 without Florence, because Florence, I mean, literally 2002, we didn't even have a hurricane up to this point. We've had 3. But conditions-wise and kind of synoptically, 2002 was very similar to this year. I mean, very quiet August, and had a very active September, even though most of the storms were kind of chunky. These surface temperatures were very similar. Pressure patterns were very similar. I mean, if it really, if it weren't for Florence, I'd be saying that this year would be 2002 2.0. And I mean, well, that's kind of been thrown out of the water now. But what I guess that does mean is that, you know, September, early October, like later in the month, I guess.
And for those who need their memories jogged back to 16 years ago, what happened that year?
Isidore and Lily, and those were both in late September, early October, respectively. Both of those storms ended up impacting Louisiana, but I mean, really anywhere in the Atlantic could see an impact during that time frame. I've been kind of concerned about that time frame for a little while now, but I mean, I guess that concern's been kind of doubted a little bit because, you know, we have Florence active, and I'm just kind of more focused on that, not really about the future. I'm just more focused on the short term meteorologically speaking. So, yeah, I mean, just really this whole month was supposed to be active, and that's exactly what it's turning out to be so far. I mean, literally 2 weeks ago, we didn't even have a single system active, like, at all. And now we have 4. I mean, Gordon's basically dead, but I mean,
we
4
could have
systems.
3 named storms at the same time. That must be the first time since last year.
Yeah, last year you also had 3 Cat 2s and 2 upper end Cat 4s happening at the same time. So,
well, you never know what might happen this time. I just want to bring people back. These are the percentage chances of tropical storm conditions in the next 10 days for Hurricane Florence. These are just the percentage chances at this time. It is very far out, and you know, it's going to be at least a week before the storm is approaching, or before the US gets impacted by anything from Florence, if it does at all. 25% the maximum there. That's a 1 in 4 chance. 20% along parts of Long Island, parts of Massachusetts, Rhode Island as well. 20%, that's a 1 in 5 chance. And a lot of other areas there, 5 and 10%. Still fairly low chances. And people asking about models quite a lot as well. We'll talk about those shortly. But I do want to take some questions because people have been waiting some time. I will not answer model questions because we're going to be showing models later. Do you think 92L will hit Miami or the Florida Keys? Who knows? You may as well, you know,
Flip a 20-sided coin.
yeah. Roll a dice. You know, it's
Roll a
and
20-sided dice on like a website if
I mean,
it lands on the one number you chose.
even if we did know the track, we wouldn't have an idea of what the intensity would be by then. There's just so many variables involved when you're talking
and it
about
has to go
something.
through lots of land masses to get there too.
That as well. But what we can tell you is what the best we know for the Lesser Antilles right now, and even some of the Greater Antilles there, about 25% chance from Guadeloupe all the way through to the Virgin Islands. Let's see, there were some more questions. Why does every single invest in the Atlantic or East Pacific become a named storm but not in the West Pacific? Well, actually, that is usually the other way around.
I mean, the Westpac, I mean, they designate invests when they have, like, even the lowest of chances of development. Like,
Well,
and then you'll see
doing,
like, 0 lows in the Atlantic that are never designated. So you'll see the Westpac go run through 10 invests before March.
I guess the exception is the East Pacific because it's the most predictable basin. I think you'd agree.
Yeah. Very straightforward tracks in general.
Norway tracking says that Olivia looks like it might be becoming annular. We'll get some pictures of that shortly to see if we can determine whether it's becoming annular. I don't quite think so yet. Can you show the percentages for Olivia and Hawaii? Yes, we can do that again.
I was going to say some of our focus should be on a storm that looks like it's more of an immediate threat to the States, because that looks like it could be
it's still 6 days out.
6 days out, but there's still some more model unison on it than we could say for other things.
So that's the percentage chances for Olivia. Only 4% of Hilo at the minute. Those percentages, of course, will rise over time. Do you think 92L will threaten South Florida? Maybe a similar track to Irma.
Right.
92L is way too far south
We'll
to be an
try and
Irma
avoid
track.
those comparisons at the minute.
Yeah, can we like not get Irma flashbacks right now? Because I mean, literally on this day last year it was literally impacting the Leeward Islands as a buzzsaw. So let's not. Thank you.
1264 Gaming says, when a hurricane crosses ocean borders, does the hurricane keep its name?
I think they changed that recently to not.
They changed it, I think, in 2000.
Yep.
Yeah, it was in 2000 they changed to keep the names from Atlantic to Eastpac.
If you want to see it from the east to west, they didn't change Lane's name, for example.
Yeah.
Not Lane Hector. Oh my god.
Yeah. I think, did I miss one? Nope, I think there's one more somewhere. Do tag Force 13 in text so it lights up for me, because I'm just scrolling through everything else at the minute because there's so much. Do you think a major hurricane will hit the mainland US? Well, what, at all? If you're asking about Florence, then we still haven't got a clue. There's certainly many examples of storms that have done it at this time of year. Not very many examples of storms that are in Florence's position getting to the US coast, though. And if it did, Hank, it would be like Isabel.
Isabel on steroids. Like, this is a lot farther north than even like Isabel and Esther were, and those were ungodly tracks to say the least. And really, if Florence does end up getting to the U.S., this would be one of the weirdest tracks we've seen in recent years, and that's saying a lot. We've had some really strange tracks recently, like not just in the Atlantic. I mean, just like in general.
All right, we'll take a look at the models in just a moment. Before we do that, I mean, I'm assuming we will, because I'm hoping that someone in the room can put up the models for us in a moment.
I can do that in just a second.
Yeah,
just before then, I want to show the latest on Olivia. This is what Olivia looks like right now on fantastic, I have to say, GOES 17 imagery. You can see how it's been progressing. And Hank, I know you said before we began tonight off air that you didn't think it was a Category 4. Do you still agree with that?
It's really borderline at this point. I mean, the eye's obviously looking pretty good, but convection just seems a little bit sporadic. I'm not buying Cat 4. It could, I mean, it's borderline in my, I mean, like, if they go with Cat 4 next advisory, then alright, but if they don't, then, you know, whatever. It's not that really.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same as you. Right then, who's showing us the models?
I have them
up right now.
Alright, this is what everyone wants to see, I'm guessing, and we can tell you our best analysis, what we're looking at.
Yeah, so I'm going to be showing this parameter right here. This basically shows, so everything in blue is like lowered height, so like low pressure basically, and everything in the orange and like the red, that's like high pressure. So low pressure spins counterclockwise, high pressure spins clockwise. So hopefully that'll kind of help explain it. And I guess I'll actually pull up this source as well. Just going to give a bit more of a
You showed this in your video, and it was really helpful, so showing on the stream is also good.
All right, so let me just get the correct parameter here. Okay, so basically what I'm going to be showing here is the steering for the storm, and this is a very complex situation. So hopefully this makes sense. If it doesn't, then whatever. But so this is what's going on. So here's Florence right here, where my cursor is right here, over this area of lowered heights. Right now we have kind of a bit of a trough extending in here. You can kind of see lowered heights right here between these two areas of high pressure. And this is kind of a trough that's currently shearing the storm. As you can see, as we go out in the future, that kind of fades away a little bit.
Just to point out where Bermuda is there as well.
It's that little speck of like kind of a black outline.
Yep.
Yeah, Bermuda is this little black speck. That's not a little peeked a smidge on your screen, that's Bermuda right there.
It's a place where over 60,000 people live.
I know.
And lots
Yeah.
of tourists.
So here's Florence on Saturday, as you can see, continuing moving on to the west. And here's Sunday. Now, Sunday and Monday are both crucial to understanding the storm's future because, as we can see here, we have this trough right here that's currently located over here over the Hudson Bay. And this is going to be dipping down over this region of the basin because we're having high pressure building in over Quebec and the northeastern part of the United States that is forcing it in this general direction because high pressure spins clockwise. So because of that, this trough's spinning to dip down. Now, here's the issue. Florence is all the way down here on this run. And this is just the GFS. We'll talk about the Euro in a minute. Compare differences, I guess. You can kind of see that it's extending down pretty much to the latitude of Massachusetts. But you can see here by Monday, this is Sunday night basically, here's Florence. We can start to see these heights here building in between these two features. So this ridge over here is starting to kind of expand outwards a little bit. And in general, so this is where the trough would be by Sunday night, the ridge out here is expanding and trying to connect with this other ridge out here over the Azores.
Oh, man.
And both of these are, I don't know what happened there. Both of these right here are, I don't know, sorry about that. Let me just refresh the page. So both of these are basically trying to connect and are basically blocking both of these features.
It's a roadblock.
Basically a roadblock. And then they become too far disconnected to the point where this ridge really starts to build over America and Canada.
And that's where the uncertainty lies.
Yeah, this is the problem because this trough is weakening and even cutting off a little bit. You can see that right here.
Yep.
And then this ridge continues to build into a very strong ridge, actually anomalously strong. And this is Tuesday morning, and it's located directly south of Bermuda. Now,
so, Hank, just a question. What is causing that high ridge there? Why is it becoming so strong?
Well, right now it's basically what's going to be in this run. It's going to be located in between two generally weak areas of troughing. Right, one over here over the southern U.S. and the other one, obviously, over the North Atlantic. Once it's be able to take advantage of the fluence from both of these, it's able to actually build in height and become a lot more dominant. And because it's also a lot more expansive here, we don't have any other troughs moving in. It's become really expansive, and it's basically surrounded by clockwise flow of things, basically. All the action up here in the northern Atlantic and all of the easterly flow down here in the tropics, including Florence. So that's what's going to happen. And you can see here in the run, this is Tuesday morning. This is hour 1:14. You can see Florence is located directly south of Bermuda. So assuming the storm is in this general area right here, we have this basically blocking high right here. And all of this right here is going to be basically forcing the storm in this general direction and basically making the storm move towards the United States in general. Now, it's still very murky here, and I want to emphasize that a lot. It could easily, I mean, there's a lot of different solutions here as we've been really hammering, but say the storm is here. It could go anywhere from, like, South Carolina.
You really think that far south?
I mean, that's really the forecast spread we're seeing at this point. And it's because, again, it is very far out into the future. And as you can see here, this is by Wednesday, so we're kind of getting a little bit even murkier. The ridge is kind of starting to surround the system a little bit. It's kind of becoming more, so here's the storm right here. The ridge is kind of becoming a bit more kind of banana-shaped a little bit. Yeah. And when that happens, there's a lot of different things that can happen. It can either build in, kind of like this, and then force the storm directly west, or it could just be like I outlined right there and kind of stay like that and then force the storm northwest, or it could be kind of like this and force the storm to the northeast. So there's a lot of different solutions here that are very, we don't have a very good handle on this quite yet.
This is why we're going to be watching it for a very long time.
Yes, and then eventually the GFS does not impact the United States. But again, this is just one model run, and you can see here.
That is literally embedded in the high pressure now.
Yeah. So what happens here
it's literally stuck in high pressure, so it doesn't go anywhere until, and then this feature right here just kind of sits here.
Oh yeah, this run was crazy.
Yeah, so then it just kind of sits it right here. But again, this is really far into the future, and then past then it just kind of kicks on out. So that's the GFS solution and
that's
a basic
just one
rundown.
computer model, folks, and there's many ensembles towards that computer model.
Yeah, so I'm just going to go over the European and maybe the HWRF because that's really
before you do that. Can I just ask a question that I'm sure some people are wondering? So we see the GFS runs that you show much closer to the coast. So why do we have the GFS and its ensembles being significantly further east?
Well, in general, the GFS has a much kind of it's really just a matter of how far south it is, and you can see here in the ECMWF it's significantly farther south than the GFS. The GFS is kind of more up here. So
but what I'm saying is, like, why do we see the main GFS run that we show on this site show it significantly further west than like what all the ensemble models say with this system? Is there any reason for that one?
Well, really, what happens is each ensemble is the same model run over and over, but each time there's a different parameter change. So, say one ensemble has the pressure of a certain ridge adjusted up 5 millibars, or the other one has a more amplified trough or whatever. And the parent model is a conglomeration of all of that. And it's basically kind of averaging out the tracks and moving in a direction that seems most idealized with all those different parameters in check. And in this case, the one that seems the most likely is it moving on the west side of all those ensemble means, because a lot of those have different pressures with the trough. And because of that, it's making it easier for the storm to actually curve on out. So
Hank,
really,
is this you saying it's more likely that it's going to track closer to land?
Sorry, say that again?
Is this you telling us now that the storm is more likely to track closer to land than not?
Not necessarily. What I'm saying is that just the parent model has that kind of characteristic to it. But it's just one model. We need to pay attention to all its ensembles.
And at one time as well, it can change in 6 hours.
Yeah, this can change a lot in 6 hours, and that's why we need to really be on top of this forecast, because it's something that is very uncertain past even 3 days, even past now. And the spread is so huge that it could track in a diameter of literally about 1,000 miles plus. So we really need to be not just strictly paying attention to that parent model. I know that's what is usually seen, because you obviously click onto this and the first thing that comes up is the parent model, or that's what they show on TV. The meteorologists just show the parent model on TV. It's the ensembles that we really need to pay attention to more in this scenario, because they're not very tightly clustered. There is less certainty than if they were tightly clustered. In storms like, say, 92L, they're much more tightly clustered in the next 3 days as compared to Florence.
Let's keep going through these model runs then and see what they're all saying then.
All right. Well, the Euro has, that banana-shaped ridge, kind of like this that I was outlining earlier, and does make it impact North Carolina on Thursday. This is a week out.
And whilst you're looking at that, Helene looks like it's going to impact the Lesser Antilles.
Yeah, that 92L, that's what it would be moving into the Windward Islands around, Barbados, St. Vincent.
That's quite low as far as the models are going. It's towards the south of the spread.
Yeah, I believe it's a bit weaker than
weak,
the
yeah.
So that might be why. So yeah, and then 93L behind it, and then ECMWS also has Florence stalling off the coast, but again, that's long range stuff, and we'll not really pay attention to that. I'm just going to ignore the rest of the global models, because we could be here for hours if we did that. So I'm just going to go
to be here for. If you got a model to request, folks, let us know.
Yeah, so the HWF
They're going to ask us to show this. They're going to make us show the CMC then.
So
we won't take requests for the CMC. Okay.
Sorry, my bad. So this is the HWF model. Now, it doesn't go far out in time enough to actually show what impact the United States. But this is Tuesday evening. And you can see here, Southwest Bermuda, pretty similar position to, actually pretty much like halfway between the GFS and the Euro. And in this situation, we can see that we have the pretty strong ridge here. And you can kind of see that outline with this kind of this isohypsy up here in the 500 millibar level. And this, in general, this is a ridge. So it's going to be forcing clockwise flow around it. So if this wouldn't change, and I can't see any way how it would, considering how strong it is, this model would also be forcing Florence into the mid-Atlantic. Because, I mean, literally the ridge extends in the United States. So that's what I would assume on this model run. But considering that this would happen past when the model actually ends, you can already tell it's pretty obvious that this is really far out and something that you do have time to prepare for.
And
I guess we'll do H1. I guess we'll do H1.
Yep.
But,
just before then, I just want to mention we are also doing that poll right now. Will Invest 92L be named on Friday? You can let us know on the community tab of the YouTube channel. 106 votes so far, 84% say yes, and we'll get some of your thoughts in a few minutes.
So yeah, this is the H1 model. And by the way, the HWF, I believe, peaks Florence as a 4 south of Bermuda. So this is the H1. It doesn't have that wider shot, unfortunately, but this is what we can show. And it goes up to the same hour that the HWF does in terms of the end hour, and that's not enough to actually show impact in the United States. But we can proceed the run here, and you can see, I can't see Bermuda in the run, and it's about 29 degrees north. So this is south of Bermuda. It's not even in the frame. Bermuda's not the frame. So this is pretty far south. And again, the further south the storm is, the more likely it is that it'll track further west, and hence the more likely it is in the long range that it could impact the United States. And I will also emphasize this. Remember the GFS model that is moving offshore. That does not mean the U.S. is, cleared. I mean, yes, it's better than if it were to make landfall, but even if it's offshore, you can have significant impacts. And it doesn't even have to be from rain bands. You can just be on the beach, and there could be significant rip currents, much more significant than usual.
I think that is going to be one of the guarantees from this storm.
That's already stated in the National Hurricane Center.
Already? Wow.
Discussion. They said that for about a day and a half now, that it's complete speculation to impact the East Coast in terms of winds or rain with the exact track, but that it's very likely that swells will be very dangerous.
Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention to this and you just go out, because water is really warm off the East Coast right now, so if people want to go to the beach or go surfing, they might do that, and then if they're not informed or they aren't caring, they could be risking their own lives like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't even have to be a very strong storm. I mean, Chris, earlier this year, took the life of a person when it was just depression because of strong rip currents, and that was on that was during the 4th of July. So it doesn't take a strong hurricane like Florence potentially could be to cause something like this. Really, just advise, if you're going to be taking a vacation to the Outer Banks next week, for example. Number one, if this situation continues to occur, you might want to cancel your trip. But if it doesn't, and it does end up going offshore, stay away from the beaches, stay away from the water. Like, if you get caught in a rip current, that is potentially lethal, and you can drown easily in a rip current. Water is a lot more powerful than people really make it out to be. 9 out of 10 deaths related to hurricanes occur due to water. So, it doesn't even have to be from flooding. It could just be from rip currents. That also accounts for that. So, it can't really be overstated that, direct impacts don't mean no impacts. In accordance to Florence here. And again, look at the hour. 126. This is Tuesday evening.
Yep, 5 days.
So you have time, and that is the good thing with the storm, is that it is still way far. If I go back to this loop, we can see it's all the way out here in the Atlantic. This is Bermuda on your very edge of your screen. It's way far out here. So that means that you do have time to prepare just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case.
If you don't mind just showing the uncertainty, can you go and show the whole ensemble spread? Because we've only looked at singular run.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to a different source for this. This graphic
Because,
I really
there's hundreds of model runs that you see, and, they currently the ones I see spread from North Carolina to the Azores, if you go out that far. If 10 days out, they stretch from, the Carolinas to the Azores. So there's an absurdly large spread with this. You said it earlier that this is one of the most uncertain tracks that we've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, right now I have the Euro ensembles up. And you can see here, even at 48 hours, that's at least, a good 200-mile spread in tracks. Maybe not 200 miles, but about 200 miles. And that's at 48 hours. That's 2 days. About 200-mile errors in 48 hours is unheard of for Atlantic tropical cyclones, unless your name starts with an E and ends with Joaquin.
Oh god! And I don't know. Goodness knows what the errors are there. 5-10 days.
Yeah, that's a spread from literally, Alabama at 10 days. Alabama to south of Newfoundland. It could be anywhere in 10 days. That's not unheard of 10 days out, but it's just you go to 40 hours. Again, the spread's huge. 5 days out, the spread is huge. Bermuda, I can't even see it in here because they're just so tightly clustered. I would assume it's generally, or actually it's right here. Never mind. So all the Euro ensembles basically are south of Bermuda.
Yeah, that's very curious.
And then if we go back to the GFS, I didn't mean to right click. There's less members here for, I don't know why there's less, but there are, whatever. You can see here, they're also pretty far south, but they also keep it east of the United States for the most part. But again, look at the hours here. 192, 168, 216. That's 9 days out, folks. That's a very long time for the storm to actually make it to this part of the basin. And, it can't be overstated that we need to actually understand this is a long-range threat and not something that we need to be taking everything word for word, because...
And just a point on that, a case in point, who remembers when forecast models had Irma hitting the Carolinas with a pressure of 884 millibars?
I guess that was more due to model pressure errors than actual...
Yeah, GFS always struggles with that.
Still, didn't go anywhere near the Carolinas.
There was times we were saying it would hit New York City.
Oh yeah, the tracks for Irma were all over the place. But in general, Irma's track guidance was a lot more confined than Florence. Like, Irma's track guidance was excellent for the storm. This is all over the place. And, remember, like, literally when it was just a potential tropical cyclone hitting Cape Verde, we thought it was a easy curve out to sea. We thought maybe the Azores. Now it's maybe the United States. Literally on opposite sides of the basin. So this tells you that even though we have advanced a lot in meteorology in recent years, we still have very hard times forecasting, especially tropical meteorology. It's very difficult. This is a very difficult science. And if you take these words, everything meteorologists say word for word, that's not going to get you anywhere. You need to pay attention to the big picture here, especially in a case like this. Because if you go on YouTube, for example, and you find some video from this, I guess, pseudoscience channel that says listen to me, Florence, Cat 5, New York City, something like that, and you click on it, it's gonna make you want to believe that that's going to happen, and it's not going to mention that it's 10 days out. It's going to make you feel like it's happening imminently, and it's not. And
one of the huge amount of possibilities.
We have a lot of time to worry about this, and there's countless possibilities. Hundreds of models mean there's hundreds of possibilities.
Yeah. Strack said it basically better than I could have, honestly. Hundreds of models, hundreds of possibilities. That's basically what it comes down to. Or hundreds of ensembles, 100 possibilities, really.
Because, like we said, the model spread for this one is particularly large. Something we don't see that often. You're showing the Euro ones. it shows South Carolina to, what is that? All the way up towards 2,000 miles east of northern Quebec.
Euro shows basically Cape Canaveral to south of Newfoundland, basically.
And you see a lot of them just, you know, weak steering pattern, at least long term, is what they're trying to forecast, and they just stall it and make it do loops off the East Coast. Pretty far away for most of them, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, sorry about that. Yeah, it's just really, really something that this storm is something else. I'll just say that straight up. Like, this storm is this is more unpredictable than your average hurricane, and your average hurricane is very unpredictable. So, literally, like, forecasting the landfall point, if any, for this storm is like trying to shoot an atom, like a singular atom, basically, while riding on a horse blindfolded with a shotgun bullet. It's impossible. We don't know how. We don't know where it's going to impact. We don't know if it's going to impact. But what we do know is that you can prepare. We know that you can go to the store right now and get your hurricane supplies ready. We know that you can listen to your local authorities and heed their advice. If they say evacuate, evacuate. If they say, you know, might want to watch the storm, get your supplies ready, watch the storm and get the supplies ready. Just do what they say, because they are the best source of information for you regarding the storm.
It's time to prepare.
Yeah.
We're looking at Bermuda for now, but then once, you know, I think we've kind of said this multiple times to really come back.
We've said it so many
times,
and that's how we've managed to get through the hour.
Yeah, we said 2 days ago to come back in 5 days, or that might have been even 3 days ago at this point.
Well, we're about to finish up here.
We're gonna change it to say come back in 2 or 3 days.
I'm gonna go and summarize everything whilst I get some buttons ready. Okay, so let's take a look back at the latest. This is the latest National Hurricane Center track forecast. This is really all that we can probably look at right now. As you can see, they do actually expect it to weaken to a tropical storm and then back to a hurricane. And
Actually,
then eventually...
I'm sorry to interrupt. ATCF has it as a tropical storm right now.
Right. How interesting.
They have it as 60 knots and 994 millibars right now as of
That's
0
impressive
UTC.
Weakening continuing then. 70 miles an hour. The National Hurricane Center will probably still put it back up to major as it approaches Bermuda. So we're going to be watching that very closely. That was an old image of Norman.
Also, they also have Olivia as a Category 4 now.
They do have... Okay. Well, there we go. Olivia Category 4, apparently. That's according to the automated service. We'll wait to see whether that gets translated into the advisory, which is in 2 hours. This is the latest model run for Olivia. You can see small percentages of tropical storm conditions on the Hawaiian Islands in the next 5 days, but that is just because the track takes it to the Hawaiian Islands about 6 or 7 days from now. Then you've got, this is the wide picture right now, so there's Florence, maybe not to be a hurricane for much longer, and then you've got the two invests. The first one 80% in the next 2 days, and the second one just emerging off Africa 70%. And you saw in those models there, they take both of those storms generally westward. Number 2 looks like it will go a little bit more northward, sort of following Florence. And the first one affecting the Lesser Antilles, quite possibly, not a certainty by any stretch yet. And there's Olivia in the Eastern Pacific, along with that invest, which is 50%, 92E. And that may well be our next named storm. And then you've got Norman, which last I saw, we haven't shown any imagery of Norman today, I don't think, but it was looking pretty poor.
Yeah, it ain't looking too hot right now.
Wind
Yeah,
shear.
I mean, it's made... I mean, models predicted it, but... I mean, it's made quite a few bounces up and down between weak hurricane and major hurricane status, and it looks like this probably is the time that it really goes out for sure.
Invest 98W, high chance from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center off the Japanese Ryukyu Islands. 99W at a moderate chance. We didn't get time to show the models on that.
No, we didn't.
Why not? Well, the models were saying all kinds of things. I'd be watching closely if you're the Mariana Islands, and indeed Guam. I don't think we could... We gotta show those models.
Do we? Okay. Hank, do you want to pull those up very quickly then?
We gotta
Alright,
show those models.
I can do it. You know, I'll do it. Alright.
So
There's a couple of pretty crazy solutions that we see right now. I'll turn on HD for this.
I already
And-
got you, Strat.
I don't worry, I got this, man. But here's the
Okay.
GFS. I think 99W.
Just a
I
minute,
think, is
just a
down
minute.
here.
Hold on, who's who now?
I got this.
I think I'm looking at Stratbecker's screen.
Do you see the surface pressure and
Yep, we got you.
Okay, so 99W's out here. 98W is the one with the cyclone formation alert, and that's to the east-northeast of Taiwan right now. This GFS run doesn't really do anything with it, but you see 99W develop pretty quickly out here, and then by 5 days, the GFS don't pay attention to the pressure because GFS always has problems with that. Pay attention to the fact that it probably has it as a Category 3 hurricane, typhoon at least at this point, and going further out, it brings us a threat to Taiwan later on. But model's been trying to do that for a couple days, but it can spread significantly. Just to look at the Euro in comparison, it also has it here at day 5, and if you go further out, they also bring it towards Taiwan. But of course, it's still too early. The Euro actually develops a South China Sea storm, which is pretty interesting. None of the other models are doing that. But while we're looking at Florence slowly over the next few days, and Olivia as it may approach Hawaii, we're definitely also going to be looking at the Western Pacific, because there is the chance that this becomes a big problem 5 to 7 days down the road. So we're probably going to have a lot of coverage to deal with in the next week at this rate.
Definitely. It's going to be a very long week. Well, I hope we covered everything. But that's what we have for you right now, and we'll have more, no doubt, in the coming days, 'cause it's going to be a very long beginning part of the month by the looks of things, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it definitely seems like it.
Alright then, that's everything. You can see everything. Okay, everything's not working now. I'm trying to navigate back to the original page. I don't know how that happened. We've got a mirror there. Let's turn that off. Okay, well, that is everything. What am I even saying anymore? Let's just get the results of that poll, actually, before we do finish. Will Envis92L be named this Friday? That's today, technically. 129 votes, 85% say yes. Adam Smith says if not Friday, then definitely by Sunday. Wouldn't be surprised if it became a tropical depression, doubt a tropical storm. That's interesting. They said yes, though, for some reason. I'm guessing yes because we're in the peak of hurricane season. I feel like it will. It's well organised. This is 4 blocks. Who's predicting a major? So's the HWRF. No, I think it will be named on Saturday, and a lot of people who are saying no are saying that it will be named on Saturday, so that's interesting. You can actually see imagery of Norman on my screen right now, and it is really dying a death. But that's it from us tonight, from the team and myself, Nathan Foy. We'll be back again at some time soon. You can stay up to date on our social platforms, Facebook and Twitter, search Force13 all in text. And you can also add my personal account on Discord, Fool13, at extension 9094. There's also the public chat room on there which you can join. The link is somewhere on the community tab of the YouTube page. We'll have to refresh it and post it again, but it is the same link. Strat?
Take care. I was just saying we could always repost the community link. It's not going to be a problem.
Alright then, till next time, good night and keep watching because there's a lot to be tracking. Good night.